This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Coaching can change your life. People who hire a coach are more satisfied with their lives. They have lower stress, better coping mechanisms, and improved work-life balance. Who doesn't want that? Employees benefit too, because 70% of employees who receive professional coaching improve work performance. Employees are more engaged, retention is higher, and job satisfaction increases. Leaders who hire a coach are significantly more likely to meet goals. Their teams are stronger performing, and they are assessed higher in critical leadership skills. And 72% of coaching clients report better communication skills after being coached. These results are possible because coaching is a guided process that helps you not just survive, but thrive. Jennifer, with Prism Coaching, provides you the tools and resources to examine your thinking and enact positive change in your home, school, or work. She uses evidence-based coaching techniques to build upon your strengths and improve confidence and self-efficacy. All personal coaching is individualized to reflect your unique challenges and maximize your strengths. If you have a big change coming up, long-term stress, or maybe you'd like to achieve an elusive milestone, you'll benefit from coaching. Even if you don't think you need coaching now, you'll still gain valuable insights into yourself to be better prepared for the future. Valeria interviews Jennifer Rickmers. She holds a doctoral degree in organizational leadership and is a former educator and military veteran of 12 years. Her favorite part of these experiences has been how she has been able to use her influence to promote positive change. So Jennifer opened a private practice in coaching in 2022. Although she started in executive coaching, Jennifer has expanded to offer a range of services. She has 4 children, 2 with autism and ADHD, and she is a late-in-life diagnosed autistic adult. Jennifer is optimistic that with increased awareness and training, we can create a more responsive and inclusive world for neurodiverse individuals. Becoming a board-certified coach is a calling that provides her purpose and clarity. Although by nature, Jennifer is results-driven, she always encourages her clients to examine why they make certain decisions. You find a lot of values-driven work in her coaching. Jennifer's goal is to make sure that we are working toward your brightest future. She is thankful every day for the opportunity to be a steward of your trust. Meet Jennifer at prismlifecoaching.com. Here's the interview with Jennifer Rickmers.
How would you describe who you are in this very moment?
What a beautiful question. I love the idea that we are someone who changes moment to moment. In each moment, we get to create ourselves. I have recreated myself a lot. The current version of me is compassionate and curious, but honest and assertive. I'm a coach and a military leader, so I am drawn to service. My role as a mother is very important to me too. I am a fighter and I am a relentless advocate for my children. I'm a nurturer for sure, but I am very fierce about it. That might seem like a contradiction, but I've embraced those parts of myself and I know what my values are. So I have a strong identity and a strong sense of self right now.
What makes you happy and what makes you feel successful?
I've been very successful on paper, and I've been very unhappy. So I'm successful now in different areas. I'm more patient with my children. I'm more pleasant to be around, at least I think, and I'm more involved with my spouse. I just have more energy and I'm more at peace with myself than I was before. So even though my resume doesn't look quite the same, I think I have found a way to be successful in the things that matter to me. When I think about my time in the Air Force, I was miserable when I was deployed, even though I was trained and executing well, because, at that time it was all about your performance. It was my proficiency, it was my flight hours, it was how my team was doing. But I was way happier when I was a volunteer victim advocate. I was way happier when I volunteered to teach classes at the education center. I was happier when I was planning ceremonies, even when those ceremonies celebrated others' accomplishments and not my own. So what really made me happy and successful has been serving others, even though I haven't always realized that. I'll always be proud of what I did, and I was definitely successful in these kind of objective measures. But I am so much happier with the work that I do now. There is deep meaning in the work that I do, even though it's sometimes hard to measure. But I can say when I help people, I am both happy and successful.
What inspired you to become who you are and to do what you do today?
Inspiration to become a life coach came to me slowly. There is no eureka moment or lightning bolt of realization coming down on me. My journey into coaching was actually several years long and very deliberate. I'm very analytical, very data driven, so I made a spreadsheet. I'm not embarrassed. I compared all my job options and what I wanted to do, and then I made a weighted pros and cons list. I'm not embarrassed, I said that. And then I researched potential employers and kind of their recruitment process. I even tried some part-time gigs, really boring stuff, typical career exploration. And I'm also one of those people that needs a good sleep or several and a good person to talk it over with. And that's one thing that I just know to be true about myself. But in the end, what was holding me back from making a decision was fear. Changing jobs is easy. Changing industries is a little harder, but my entire career was changing. And keep in mind, I was the primary earner for my family too. So the way I overcame my fear was through some good self-coaching, and I went back to my values. My values are compassion, honesty, curiosity, and service, and those are really important to me. And I wasn't going to be happy no matter how great the promotion potential was, or how cool the assignment was, or how much money I was going to earn, unless I got to live my values. And out of all of my priorities, coaching came out at the top of my spreadsheet. Yeah, it scored high in the pros and cons list, and yeah, it offered me the freedom I needed to be the person I am now. But during my initial foundation classes, I could envision a future in coaching. Even though I started with this very analytical approach, it was a decision I made based on my heart because it spoke to my values. It came down to me being able to see my future. And the more continuing education I do and the more experience I gain, the more certain I am of my choice. I'm still growing as a person, of course, but I kind of came through the crisis phase in this crisis moment into feeling at peace. So it's not really inspirational as much as it is just a calling.
Do you consider what you do a calling, a purpose, or a mission?
Absolutely. It's all three of those. I quit my job, I put down the protection that job security provides, and decided that I would rather risk failure as a coach than draw another paycheck for the wrong reasons. I've joked with some fellow coaches, that were spoiled for the corporate world. I don't know if I or any of my fellow coaches would ever fit in if we went back to that hustle. But knowing that I'm helping people make deep and meaningful connections with their employment is amazing. And I love how people are proud of what they do and the direction they decide to take during coaching. That itself is deeply meaningful and purposeful to me. So yeah, it's a calling, a purpose, and a mission. It's all three of those.
Who would benefit most from your work and your message?
I really encourage people who are neurodivergent to seek coaching services since they often struggle with the emotional roller coaster of life. They have a lot to gain at the outset of coaching. but I don't turn anyone away. Some coaches do if it's not a good fit, but I prefer to allow the client to make that decision themselves. Everyone deserves compassion. Everyone deserves support and guidance. Everyone is entitled to human connection. So I say that everyone can benefit from coaching as long as they're ready, and that's something that they're interested in. So you might be ready if you're attracted to the idea of coaching, even if you can't describe why, or if you feel burned out, or maybe you're experiencing chronic stress. Sometimes we feel like something is missing in life. Those are all really good indicators that you're ready for coaching.
What is like working with you from a client's perspective?
Well, I try not to be intimidating. I ask people what they know about coaching and how they'd like to start. Some people are able to launch right in and others need some encouragement, but generally after 2-3 sessions, the nervous butterflies are gone and the conversations go more smoothly. You can feel the connection start to form after just a few sessions. My feedback has been that I'm supportive and helpful. And I think that shows in the fact that most of my clients are long-term. I'm not plagued by high turnover, which I think says a lot about how my clients are feeling. They're revitalized and motivated, so they keep coming back. I'm also very forgiving in my business practice itself, and I try to work through payment and scheduling issues. This is a deliberate choice for me because I work with clients who are generally competent, but they're task saturated, they're burned out, maybe they're stressed, and the days just get away from them, especially for my ADHD clients. Those individuals do tend to be late or miss appointments. So it's important for them that I accommodate what I can. I can teach forgiveness and self-compassion by modeling it for them. I'm grateful for these people who show up as they are, and there's nothing to gain from chastising them, especially when they're already apologetic or embarrassed. I am going to focus on being the best coach that I can be for them. So I really hope that my clients love that about me.
What is healing to you?
I think when I make others happy and I am meeting my full potential, I find that healing. I talked about my commitment to service earlier. Doing things for others is healing. It gives me a sense of accomplishment and a sense of fullness that I just don't get anywhere else. I do think, though, that I still have to take care of myself because even though service is amazing and it's good, I still struggle with burnout. My clients definitely struggle with burnout. And if I only did things for others, that would be too much of a good thing. So I work with clients to identify what kind of actions they can take, goals to set, hobbies to get involved in, environments they can place themselves in, specific things they can do that would be healing to them. I avoid buzzwords like self-care and finding yourself because my typical client has tangible needs and I use concrete language to reflect the tangible needs of their world. In fact, I think I might have the unpopular opinion here, but I don't love self-care, or at least how the term has been thrown around. In recent years, self-care as a concept has become commercialized and diluted, which has led to a treat yourself mentality in pop culture. And as someone who doesn't enjoy those stereotypical things like massages or fancy dinners, I didn't know what self-care looked like until I explored how I did care for myself. From my perspective, when I was struggling to find time to shower, not exercising, not eating right, not sleeping, and the world is saying, go shopping, get that necklace, eat that cupcake, that kind of self-care isn't what I needed. Honestly, the idea of a massage is a sensory nightmare. I don't want a massage. I don't need a massage. I need compassion. Self-compassion is really high on my self-care list. And you heal from self-compassion in a way that you can't heal from a pedicure. Now, there are absolutely people who would feel restored after a nice bout of retail therapy, and that's awesome for them. I'm happy for them, but that's not required for healing. What I'm trying to do as a coach is to help people who have forgotten that it's okay to want things for themselves and that it isn't selfish to have needs. I'm trying to honor their needs, and sometimes that means reconnecting with their bodies, and sometimes it means reconnecting with their mind, their emotions, or their spirituality. Healing varies person to person. I know that my aptitude for service might burn someone else out, because what's healing to me isn't healing for someone else. I want to emphasize that. I made a deliberate choice on Prism Coaching's website not to list healing services so that I could distance myself from what people expect to be healing and actually focus on what the data says is healing. And what the data says is healing is that sharing the load of someone's shame openly with them, walking through trauma together with them, reconnecting with God and finding purpose, those are all connection opportunities for healing. And that's all healing really is. It's the process of connection and compassion. So my role as a coach is to provide you that connection and compassion over and over again so that you have the time and the space you need to heal.
What is the goal of healing and what are the obstacles to it?
Yeah, so if the process of healing is connection and compassion, then the outcome is integrity. Integrity is an odd word choice, I know, but it means whole. A person who has integrity is whole. So when we speak of emotional healing, we speak of integrity as this idea of wholeness and a oneness with oneself. It's okay to have scar tissue because that's a part of who we are now. I believe that healing doesn't mean we have moved forward releasing our pain. It means we have moved forward with our pain. We carry it, but we are no longer weighed down by it. When I was in therapy for depression, I've been making some good progress for some time. I had a moment where I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't know what to do with this newfound emotional freedom. It was almost too liberating because I wasn't dependent on the same things I was before. I looked at school differently. I looked at myself differently. I looked at God differently. I felt exposed. And my therapist said something worth repeating to you now. The goal isn't to be the same as you were before. The goal is to be healthy. I was dumbfounded, and I'd like to add to that statement. Healthy is whole. The goal isn't to be the same before coaching. The goal is to be healthy. Healthy is whole. Are you whole? But you also asked about obstacles in your question, right? That fear and that exposure and that vulnerability that I experienced are very common obstacles. So it can be really helpful to have a coach that you trust and walk with you during that process and while you kind of deconstruct and rebuild that sense of wholeness and identity.
What are some of the misconceptions most people have about healing?
I think our society still has a long way to go in terms of accepting hurt. I think the biggest misconception people have is that common wisdom, that is the advice that's been passed down to us, isn't actually that helpful. A lot of people hear advice but have never seen great mental health care. I don't even like the term mental health. It's just health. We don't go to a hospital and call it corporal health. People would look at us like we're nuts. But for example, let's take the example of a broken arm. And let's say you saw a doctor and you had a cast and maybe you're still taking pain medication. No one would rationally say, your arm is broken still? Or stop being dramatic. Your arm is fine. You already went to the hospital. I've never heard someone say in response to a broken arm or a broken bone, you need to love yourself if you want your arm to heal. And this one, I have a list here. This one is wild. The reason your arm is hurting is because you haven't forgiven the person who broke it. These things are ridiculous, but these are the things that we say to people when they're hurting. This is the wisdom that has been passed down for generations, and it's absolutely ridiculous. We generally speaking here are so uncomfortable with someone else's pain that we unintentionally marginalize, sugarcoat, or put a halo on that pain. And I'm not privileged enough that I've earned the right to put a halo on someone else's pain. I would feel horrible doing that. Everything happens for a reason, and yes, everything does happen for a reason, but sometimes it's a horrible, terrible reason, and the only thing that's going to heal that injury is time. So if I could fix just one misconception, I would change the perception that healing can't be painful. It's slow, and it's hard, and it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't need to be sugar-coated or have a halo on it or marginalized because it's painful. My executive leadership clients need to hear that the most. They are the last to open up and be vulnerable. So as a coach, I've made myself comfortable embracing their discomfort. I think about how lobsters grow. As a lobster grows, its shell will become snug, and that's very uncomfortable. So they shed it for a new one, and when they do, they have to hide under a rock or someplace while they're vulnerable to stay safe and protected. So I make sure that I protect people while they're feeling vulnerable in the coaching space so they can grow.
Do you connect healing to spirituality? And if you do, what is spirituality to you?
I do make that connection myself, but I don't for my clients. Let me explain. I let my clients decide what kind of journey they want to be on rather than me create something that is overtly centered on spirituality. I am sensitive to the fact that there is a journey to self-discovery that can be really long and difficult, and some people will have a lot of spiritual steps, and some people will have fewer. So for those with fewer steps, I don't want to add to that when they are already doing a great amount of work. The person learning to take care of the body may not be ready to embark on a quest for the meaning of life. And I also know that people who are exploring purpose and values, who are ready to reshape their habits and connections and need me at a different pain point for them. I guess what I'm saying is if that pain point is healed by spirituality, then yes, I'm spiritual for my client. And if not, then I don't look there for an answer because it's not for the client's answer. At the end of the day, I have to do right by my client. Even if I think they would benefit from a spiritual connection, it's not up to me to forge that connection. I can't be an intermediary in the same way that I can introduce someone to a hobby or a cuisine and introduce them to God. They have to come to Him on their own. I also want to be aligned with my client's belief system while we're building that connection ourselves. Now, that being said, the spiritual journey and the message of compassion that I carry is really important. I can't imagine attempting to coach someone and neglecting spirituality altogether. It's an important part of resilience. So practical efforts, emotional support, spirituality, all of that works well together if we want a well-rounded and holistic coaching experience.
At this time, what is the world's greatest need?
I use the phrase emotional hospitality a lot. It's about being open with your heart for others. I felt like there was a lot of loneliness and isolation and superficial connection in some of the early years of my career. I would try so hard to fit in and say the right thing, only to be rejected and ultimately feel like a misfit no matter what. I had a place to sleep and a place to work and a place to study. I had a place to exercise and a place to eat, but I had no place for my dreams. I had no place for my passions, my emotions, or my grief. And we need that in the world. We need to feel and to exist and just be welcomed as we are. Yes, there is pain in that, but there is also joy. And when we reach out to one another despite our hurt, we also find that our connection blossoms. From connection, we are able to share compassion, love, hope, faith. We're so disconnected now and more disconnected than in any other time in history. And just coaching opens up an avenue for that professional intimacy that we are missing in so many places. The world needs emotional hospitality right now.
What does emotional freedom look like, and how can your work help?
Emotional freedom is being able to make future choices unburdened by past events. You'll feel the hurt, the memory of it will sting, but you get to be a person independent of your pain, coexisting without letting it control you. As a coach, I love to tell people to embrace dichotomy. You can be two things at once. You can be angry and you can forgive someone. You can be disorganized, but you can still be brilliant. You can have weaknesses, but still be worthy of love. All of this is as it should be. I wish I knew the author of this metaphor, but I tell my children that they are a vast ocean. In it, there are currents and tides and events and lots of fish swimming every which way. And some of those fish are named sadness. Another fish is named love. And there's a really big red fish named anger. Everybody knows anger. But they aren't the fish. You are the ocean. You see the fish. You recognize the fish. And then the fish passes by. My clients really beat themselves up. Both my leadership clients and my ADHD clients, they just focus so hard on their failures that they become a fish named worthless. So my work as a coach teaches people recognition, acceptance, and resilience. If I give people these tools, we find out that they are actually quite the expert in their own life. When we can improve without judgment, accept what we cannot change, and embrace our strengths and weaknesses, we get to have entire oceans named acceptance and inner peace. I think I actually want my ocean to be named inner fire. I want to make people feel alive and authentic and valued. So that's how I help with emotional freedom.
Talk to me some more about your offerings and services. Do you meet your clients in person and remotely?
I see clients both in person and remotely, but I have noticed the shift is leaning towards teleappointments, and I'm leaning that direction too. Remote work is affordable and accessible, which is important to me so that I can reach people from all backgrounds.
Do you offer group and corporate coaching?
Yes, I have a few corporate sponsors who support their employees with coaching, and I do have room to accept more. Recently, I added a program on personal branding and values alignment, and I hope to have finished developing a course in negotiation and advocacy by the end of the year. Individuals seeking career pathfinding, support, or support with neurodivergency are still my largest clientele by far, though.
Where can we find more information about you, your work, products, services, and future projects?
I have a website, prismlifecoaching.com, and there's a contact form that lets me know how to reach out to you. I generally respond within 24 hours, and I can fit new clients in about a week. I also partnered with Nectarful, and that's a relatively new coaching network founded in the spirit of Christ-centered ministry, but the outreach is to spread joy and compassion without regard to faith. So we are able to reach a broad audience because we have really different specialties and backgrounds, and they have their own site at nectarful.com, and I am really optimistic about our potential impact, not just with Nectarful, but also with my own site, which again was prismlifecoaching.com.
Thank you so much for your presence and for our meaningful collaboration and connection.
Thank you so much for having me. This was absolutely a blast. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Jennifer Rickmers and her work, please visit prismlifecoaching.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.